One small feature can make a big difference. Today I added a calculator to my expense tracker Cashio. Before this, users had to calculate expenses for different categories in their heads, or they had to leave the app and use the phone's calculator. That this is not the style of an easy-to-use app is clear. But now it's much easier for the users, and I did also learn a few things by building this feature. So in this video I'll show you the calculator, the problems I ran into, and also what I learned along the way. After using my app for a long time, I got quite annoyed by how complicated it was to calculate the right price for each spending category. I often bought a drink and something to eat in my lunch break, and because I wanted to track drinks and food into different categories, I always had to calculate the right amount of money for each of those categories. For this I had two options. First, I could just calculate it in my head. Sometimes this was easy, but especially if you're tired, this can get very annoying, and it also makes the app not suitable for everyday use. The second option was to use the phone's calculator, and this works. The problem with this solution is that you have to switch apps, and this is also not the best solution for everyday use. As a consequence of that, I built my own calculator and integrated it into the expense page of Cashio. Usually, I try to follow the principle of less is more in Cashio. Too many features can make an app confusing and harder to use. That's why I'm careful with every addition. I want the app to feel clean, simple and fast, not cluttered and packed with useless features nobody cares about. But sometimes, adding a single feature actually makes the app simpler, not more complicated. That's exactly what happened with this calculator. At first I hesitated. Do I really need another feature, or isn't this overkill? I think this small calculator didn't just add something new, it made using the app easier and smoother. So in this case, more was actually the right choice. It's a good reminder. Minimalism is great, but functionality that improves the user experience is always worth it. I did not want my app to end like a MacBook. Clean design, but less USB ports and therefore not as functional as they could be. A calculator sounds easy at first, but it can be more complicated than you think. Let me explain. When it comes to a feature like this, the hardest thing is not the logic with JavaScript. It actually is the design and layout of the feature. I am not the greatest with design, and building a simple feature like this can be complicated for me. The biggest problem was the layout of the calculator. The question I asked myself was which buttons I really need. I am not needing crazy features like solving null point calculations or advanced scientific functions. I just wanted the calculator to do what is really needed: add, subtract and multiply. I do not even need to divide for this part. So I had to carefully decide which buttons are essential and which ones would just clutter the interface. After a few attempts, I realized that less is more, but only if it still serves the user. Every button, every layout choice matters because the user should be able to use it intuitively without thinking too much. It was a small feature, but it required a lot of thought though, about the design, simplicity and usability. That's exactly why easy tasks can turn out difficult. Even a tiny calculator can teach you a lot about building user-friendly apps. At the end, I decided to use this simple layout. Another point I learned was that planning before coding matters. This is one of my biggest weaknesses. I just start coding without thinking and planning a bit before I start. But I would have finished a lot faster if I had planned a bit more. For example, writing down the HTML structure before I write the first line of code, and thinking about the methods I want to use. In this project, I arranged the buttons with flexbox at first. Later, I changed it to grid because it was easier this time. Are you a flexbox or grid user? Drop it in the comments. Also, small and simple features need testing, especially how good the solution solves the problem it is supposed to solve. I cannot say a lot about this point yet, because my friends and I have to use this feature on a daily basis to tell whether this feature was worth it or not, and how many bugs there are in this calculator. If you now have any suggestions or ideas, feel free to drop them in the comments. And if you want to know what my mission behind Cashio is, watch the video on your screen next. Also don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss the next part.